Hey, what's up? I'm Guy.
I'm John.
It's our YouTube channel. Subscribe to it. Give this video a like.
Yep, check out our podcast below in the description as well.
Also, it's kickoff week. So how about a Tito's kickoff, John? Doesn't that look good?
Yep, make a Tito's soda water and put a little OJ in there as well.
The Chiefs plus 450. I'm going to hold on. Let me fill the screen and make them bigger. The Bucks at plus 550. The Packers at plus 1,000. The Bills at plus 1,200. The Ravens, the Niners, the Browns at plus 1,400. So in that sense, there is belief in them. We know they're the favorites to win their division. Yesterday, or maybe this was Saturday, Debo Samuel posted a photo of him and Trey Lance on Instagram and said, "Bet against us, don't know where they get their odds from." It was actually a really good photo, and I want the coat he's wearing. But
it's pretty badass coat, huh?
Yeah, custom, I'm sure. Make no mistake. Make no mistake. People think they should be good, us included, right? Not, I think they're going to be good. There's a difference between I think they're going to be good and you're supposed to be good. And we know based on their actions that they think they're going to be good. They've said it, but then they also took the team they had last year, right? And that didn't succeed. And what did they do with it?
Rolled it back, baby.
Rolled it back.
They rolled it back. Listen, players naturally say this. I bet you could find, if we just went through some of the Chiefs' Instagrams, like, people are doubting us. It's like, what? You guys have been to like 2 straight Super Bowls. It's like, I don't know if Kyle, when he has team meetings, is throwing up the MyBookie odds, because it'd be like, actually the odds are kind of in your favor, Devo. You could argue, did you say they have better Super Bowl odds, the Niners, than the Browns?
They have this. No, they have the same. The same.
14 to 1.
Yep, 14 to 1.
Well, it's like I'd say, well, Debo, this team made the playoffs last year and won a playoff game last year. That happened last year, and you have the same odds as them. So, and I think most people just assume the Browns are pretty good. What I think the Niners have, the betting odds. We talked about this when the schedules came out, and we kind of looked at the divisional odds. We thought it was a little crazy that they were basically had the best, same odds with the Rams to win the division, and Seattle wasn't as good. It's like Seattle just won the division. Seattle feels like won the division several times over the last, 5-6 years. Like, they consistently do that. And the Niners had better odds. The Niners have won the division once since Harbaugh. It was kind of like, whoa. So it's like, I'd say the betting odds have been favorable. And then the way people just, I would say nationally, just random fans, people listening to this, like, most people think they're going to be pretty good. Like, I'd say it's pretty universal, right? The gambling, the normal humans, the people that talk about them for a living, their own team. Like, there's not many people, like, if the Lions, if Jared Goff wanted to tweet that, I'd be like, okay, right? If Deshaun, I guess Deshaun Watson is he's not even technically on the team, but like some dude on the Jags or Texans, like, people are sleeping on us. I'd be like, yeah, they are. That is not the case with this team, man. I actually think you could argue the opposite. They're kind of getting anointed when just in their history, they've had the one moment, which was a big deal. And it's why whenever I'm not picking on these guys, but sometimes Raider fans, use the Niner fans. They're like, well, everyone's blowing Kyle. He's had one good year. Well, yeah, if your one good year was like making a wild card and getting bounced, I agree. You can't, like, that only carries so much weight. His one good year, they were leading the Super Bowl like 5 minutes to go, and their team was unreal.
Yeah,
they had 2 playoff games. But you could argue just they had 2 playoff games.
And they look like
the shit.
And they look like the best team in the league, right? For more than half the season.
Yeah, they swept the Rams. They beat Seattle on the road to win the division back when pre-COVID and there were fans. I'd say that was one of the biggest, best Niner games of the last post Harbaugh.
Which one?
Obviously I'd say the Super Bowl is number 1. I'd argue that Seattle game, Week 17, was probably the number 2 game that season.
Yeah, I mean, just because what was on the line. The game
what was
at the
on the
Saints
line
that year was also huge.
Yeah, the Saints
coming
game
off
was massive,
Ravens.
but
I
I
was
would
coming
say
off the Ravens' loss, right?
Think of what was on the line in Seattle. Seattle, it was for the Division 1 and 2, like it was either get the 1 seed or be the 5 seed. And then the way that game, I remember before you and I did the podcast, obviously we went live after the game. I guess back then we just recorded it and then put it out, not on YouTube.
Idiots.
It was pre-YouTube. But I vividly remember we talked about this. I think we were both pacing around. They were going to lose. Like there was no doubt in my mind, like, God, the Niners had this incredible season and they're going to be the 5th seed. It was crazy. And then they weren't when this dude who I'd never heard of, Dan Buns, aka Dre Greenlaw, makes it's one of the craziest endings in the history of the franchise. Like that was a remarkable game. But my point is that like I've seen Kyle's high end. Like we saw it with the team. And this high end wasn't like, oh, they got to a wild card and got bounced. No, they just cruised to the Super Bowl.
Right.
So I think when people jump back on the bandwagon, it's because like, okay, they think this guy who leads the team, it's a coaching league, and the team, which is really talented because a lot of those guys were on that team. Then they've added some pieces since, and they added a quarterback, right? So it's just, I think a lot of people are betting on these guys.
Hey, this video brought to you in part by DraftKings. Sign up with the promo code HAM right now and get in our league. Link is below.
Also, check out our friends at sleepnumber.com/ham. Biggest sale of the year this week, Labor Day, baby. Let's go. I mean, hell, I think me and you feel pretty confident. Like, lock of the week 1. Like, you wouldn't say that to just some team you didn't totally trust.
No.
They're getting treated week 1 like a lock playoff team.
But part of it's their opponent.
I know, but like if you were, let's just say I'm trying to pick it. Let's say it was Let's just say it was Bears or Vikings, Lions. That number's probably 5. 4.5.
Those teams are not.
It's not 7.
If it was Rams, Lions, it'd be 7.5.
But that's my point. Like they're getting just treated just like the Rams.
Yeah.
Coming off a 6-win season.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's not just all of that stuff. It's what they have said about their own team based on A, what they've said, which is they believe they're contenders, but B, like Brandon Ayuk, Deebo Samuel, Trent Williams, on and on and on, McGlinchey and Tomlinson and Brunskill and Mostert and Juszczyk, and they didn't make a decision to bring Jimmy back, right? They didn't financially. They could have walked away from Jimmy Garoppolo, and they didn't. And Armstead and Kinlaw and Bosa and Greenlaw and Warner and Verrett and Tart and Ward and K'Wan Williams, like, obviously you don't ever have 100% the same team, but it's the same team with some tweaks. Alex Mack.
I mean, think about this. One of the better players in our adult life for the 49ers, Joe Staley, who was just a consistent, winning, high-level player, they upgraded. Think how crazy that is. They upgraded Williams. Joe Staley. Like it would have been, if I would have said, hey, Joe Staley's going to retire, what's going to happen to left tackle? You'd say more than likely they downgrade, right? Or they have to get really lucky. They just nail a draft pick. Somehow they had Trent Williams kind of fall into their lap. Now they had to pay him this year, but it's like he's just a better player than Joe Staley.
They would argue, he's a returner, but we did have to go get him to bring him back. Right? He was
we had to pay him 60, so 50, 80, 60 million or whatever
I
they
guess
gave
you could view him
65.
as a free agent addition on this team. But
yeah, they paid him a lot of money.
But they look at it like this is Ebukam, right? We could go through like the guys they added, but they believe the team they had last year, if it was healthy, what did they think the 2020 team would have done if it was healthy? They think they were a Super Bowl contender in 2020. That's what they think.
Yeah, and I'd probably say just they weren't as good, it felt like. But if Jimmy had stayed healthy, even losing Nick Bosa, they probably get the 9 wins, right? And hell, as we saw, the Bears made the playoffs last year at 8-8. That's the thing that was crazy about the NFC. Here's the thing, guy. If you just factor in last year, the AFC was clearly a lot better than the NFC. It took 11 and it took 8. I do think the AFC does feel just a little stronger. I just think it feels like the NFC is like, if you're good, like you can just make some more hay, right? There's just some teams that are beatable on your schedule.
It's kind of the saving grace of being in the NFC West, is that it hurts that it's the best division, but you don't have to win the division, and you don't have to be the second place team in the division to be in the playoffs.
And this year they get the Lions, they get the Jags, they get the Texans, they get the Bengals.
Well, it's you don't get, if you're supposed to be good, how many opportunities do you get like this from a scheduling standpoint? Not many. Because if you're consistently good, you never get a fourth place schedule.
Well, one big swing this year, obviously because everyone gets to play the Lions, is that they do play another powerhouse division that put 3 teams in the playoffs last year, and they get the Bengals. The other 3 teams play the better team. So even if you like, I think that I could see the Steelers coming back to earth a little bit this year.
Well, but they're just
but a Steelers back to earth is not 4. It's 8-9 or 9-8, right? Like that's they are not a back to earth like they suck team.
No.
And the Ravens and the Browns. So like that, all of a sudden, is that a swing where, the Niners win and maybe one of the other teams wins, right? Like, so you get some things built in to take advantage of if you are good. Because if I told you that the Packers or Tampa Bay had the Niners schedule, I think most people would say, yeah, it's 15 wins. Like just something that you feel 100% confident on. Because there's the one thing in the back of your mind is, well, it's like, do they truly know their quarterback? Like, is this two quarterback thing going to work? If Jimmy does get hurt, is Trey truly ready to rock and roll? Is Nick Bosa and George Kittle, like, are we just getting 34 games out of the two of them? Hell,
Yeah, health
are
is
we
a big question
28?
with this team.
And health just with the top guys, right? Just George Kittle and Nick Bosa just are they missing a lot of games again?
I
mean, George missed a lot of games last year.
I'd put Ayuk and Debo in that conversation based on how important they are to the team.
Yeah, it's very top heavy at the skill guys because those guys, the Sando article kind of questioned their skill guys. I actually think that if you told me those two guys play 17 games, which obviously I'm not assuming that's going to happen by any means, they're fine at receiver if those two guys play every game, right? Those two guys can play. Now, they're not Julio and A.J. Brown.
Yeah, but with Kittle mixed in.
They're fine. They're fine. And the running back.
That's the part that kind of skews it, is it with Kittle mixed in.
Yeah, you got to factor him in the passing game.
So
and the coordinator. Like part of it is like you're like Tyreek Hill. Who are the other wide receivers the Chiefs have? Well, yeah, they have Kelsey, and then the other random old guys all haul ass. So and their coach schemes all these guys all over the place. Like when you have a great schemer, it's really like once you give a good coach like multiple elite players on offense, it's not really fair, right? Once you give a team like if you do give Sean Payton, Andy Reid, Kyle Shanahan, Sean McVay 3 elite wide receivers and a good quarterback, like they're it's not a fair fight. Like thank God the Rams over the years or even now, like Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods, that's solid, but that's it's not great.
I think
those are the two best wide receivers.
And I think you really feel it with defenses, right? You feel it with
when you give sweet defensive coordinator, sweet players.
When you look at like Nick Saban's defense, right? When you look at Dick LeBeau's defense,
remember Fangio with the Niners?
Fangio's defense was just because Fangio, it's proven, is a fantastic defensive coach, and the talent was. Are these the 4 greatest linebackers ever assembled? And then you combine those two things, and it's just devastating.
Remember
because they affect the way the game feels.
I remember Nagy's first year, and they trade for Khalil Mack with Fangio. That they had the best defense in the league. It was like, oh, this isn't fair. You're right. The defense, when you give them the Jimmies and the Joes with like an elite coordinator, it's on like Donkey Kong. I mean, honestly, kind of put Robert Saleh on the map. No one was going to offer him a head coaching job the first 2 years, and they upgraded personnel, right? Richard became healthy. They draft Nick Bosa. Fred Warner kind of became a star, and then it was like, holy shit.
Yeah.
And then he just became in the vernacular of like, this guy's a head coach.
Right.
But it was really, I mean, they added sweet players.
But no defense has ever been great without good players.
No. What do you think about the historic defenses? They're mostly all minimum multiple Hall of Famers, right? I mean,
great teams,
part
great
of the deal.
It's like the players matter.